This is a story of a man who sold ice, then meat, then stocks, and somehow ended up selling dreams at a 50% commission. His name was Jordan Belfort, and Wall Street still has very mixed feelings about him. This isn't just a tale of finance. It's a very serious story told in an easy way. Let's rewind. Jordan Belfort grew up in Queens, in a perfectly normal household. There was no trust fund, no secret billionaire uncle waiting in the wings, just a teenager who, at 16 years old, discovered he had a knack for sales. He and a friend started selling Italian ice on a local beach during a hot summer. By the end of that one season, they had pocketed $20,000. It was at this point that Jordan learned a powerful, life-altering lesson. Selling flavored frozen water was a lot more profitable than doing his homework. This single experience planted a seed. He wasn't just good at selling. He loved the game. But society has expectations. So Jordan briefly tried the conventional route. He enrolled in dental school, aiming for a stable, respectable career. His tenure there was record-breakingly short. On the very first day, the dean of the dental school gave a speech to the new students. He explained that while dentistry was a noble profession, the golden age of making a fortune from it was over. Dentists don't get rich anymore, he declared. Upon hearing this, Jordan Belfort stood up, mentally packed his bags, and walked out. He never returned. The dream of a quiet life, pulling teeth, was dead. The dream of getting rich was very, very alive. So, what next? He went back to what he knew, selling. This time, he scaled up from frozen ice to frozen meat and seafood, starting his own delivery business. He was a natural on the phone, a sales prodigy. His company grew at an astonishing rate, reportedly making $100,000 a month at its peak. He was a master of persuasion, convincing restaurants and households to buy from him. But he overlooked one tiny, crucial detail: how to actually manage the logistics of delivering all that meat and seafood. The business collapsed faster than a frozen shrimp thawing in the July sun. It was a chaotic, spectacular failure. But from the ashes, Jordan learned something vital. He confirmed two things about himself. 1, he was terrible at logistics and operations. And 2, he was exceptionally, almost supernaturally, good at selling. With this self-awareness, he finally set his sights on the ultimate sales arena, Wall Street. He landed a job at a real, prestigious firm, L.F. Rothschild. He was a trainee, learning the ropes of the stock market, eager to make his mark. And then, fate intervened in the most dramatic way possible. On October 19, 1987, a day that would be forever known as Black Monday, the stock market crashed. It was the largest one-day percentage drop in Dow Jones history. The financial world was thrown into absolute panic. And just as he was getting started, Jordan got fired. Wall Street was in chaos. But while everyone else saw a disaster, Jordan saw an opportunity. In the wreckage of the crash, he discovered a little-known, unregulated corner of the market: penny stocks. These were low-value shares of tiny companies, completely ignored by the big firms. They were seen as financial garbage, but they had one beautiful feature: huge commissions for the brokers who sold them. For Jordan, this was a jackpot. In 1989, armed with this knowledge, Jordan Belfort and his partner Danny Porish founded Stratton Oakmont. Their headquarters, not a glistening skyscraper in Manhattan. It was a desk in a friend's office, and then a small space in a strip mall, right next to a pizza place. The employees they hired weren't Ivy League finance graduates. They were hungry, unqualified, and loud kids from the neighborhood. But they had one thing in common: a desperate desire to get rich. Jordan didn't teach them financial analysis. He taught them his own sales system, a psychological powerhouse he called straight-line persuasion. It was a technique designed to take a customer from hello to yes in a straight line, bypassing their rational brain and appealing directly to their emotions. These weren't financial advisors in any traditional sense. They were motivational speakers with telephones, and their gospel was greed. Stratton Oakmont specialized in one of the oldest tricks in the book, the pump-and-dump scheme. The strategy was simple and devastatingly effective. Step 1. The firm would secretly buy up massive amounts of a worthless penny stock for literal pennies. Step 2. Jordan's army of brokers would get on the phones and hype that stock like it was the next Apple or Microsoft, using the straight line system to create a frenzy of buying pressure. Step 3. As innocent investors piled in, the stock price would artificially inflate the pump. Once it hit a target price, Stratton and its insiders would sell all of their shares at the peak, making millions to dump. Step 4. They'd disappear, leaving the stock to crash back to nothing and move on to the next one. Retirees invested their life savings. Teachers trusted them with their retirement funds. Veterans believed their promises of financial security. And while their clients' dreams turned to dust, inside Stratton Oakmont, they celebrated. The culture inside the firm was a reflection of its business model. Pure, uncut excess. Loyalty to Jordan was mandatory. Failure was not an option. Underperformers could be fired by lunchtime. Money flowed like water, and common sense had long since left the building. The office was a chaotic spectacle of primal energy, fueled by pressure, greed, and an endless stream of cash. Jordan himself became the king of this empire of excess. He bought helicopters, which he then learned to fly, sometimes with less than perfect results. He bought a massive 167-foot yacht, which he later sank in a storm. He bought sprawling mansions and lived a life that seemed ripped from a fantasy. Stratton Oakmont didn't just sell stocks. It sold an image, a lifestyle of absolute, unapologetic hedonism. But you can't run a money-making machine that loud for that long without attracting attention. Eventually, the regulatory bodies, the SEC and the FBI, started to notice that something was very, very wrong at this little firm in Long Island. The profits were too high, the complaints from ruined investors were piling up, and the brokers exuded a level of confidence that bordered on insanity. The investigation slowly closed in. In 1996, federal agents finally raided the offices of Stratton Oakmont. The party was over. Jordan tried to hide his money in offshore Swiss bank accounts, a clumsy attempt to outsmart the global banking system. It didn't work. His former employees, facing prison time, started to flip, cooperating with the authorities. The phones that once rang with the sound of money went silent. The Wolf of Wall Street could finally smell the trouble he was in. Jordan Belfort was arrested. The charges were a laundry list of financial crimes, securities fraud, wire fraud, and money laundering. He faced the full weight of the U.S. legal system. He eventually cut a deal, agreeing to cooperate against his former colleagues. His final sentence: 22 months in a minimum security prison. To be clear, this wasn't exactly a dungeon. It was more like a forced networking retreat with other white-collar criminals. In fact, it was his cellmate, Tommy Chong of Cheech and Chong fame, who encouraged him to write down his life story. And that's exactly what he did. In prison, Jordan wrote his memoir, The Wolf of Wall Street. The book was a sensation. Hollywood came knocking. The legendary director Martin Scorsese turned it into a blockbuster movie, with Leonardo DiCaprio playing Jordan himself. Suddenly, Jordan Belfort wasn't just an infamous fraudster. He was a global celebrity. He was famous, and the victims of his schemes, they received only a tiny fraction of the more than $100 million they had lost. Jordan, on the other hand, launched a new career. He became a motivational speaker and sales coach, teaching his straight-line system to a new generation of entrepreneurs. Because apparently, crime doesn't pay, but branding, it certainly does. In the end, Jordan Belfort didn't invent greed. He just packaged it, branded it, and sold it better than anyone else. His story is a wild ride, but it's also a powerful reminder of a few timeless truths. That charisma can be a weapon, that sales can be dangerous, and that if something sounds way too good to be true, it probably came from a boiler room in a strip mall. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this story, be sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the most fascinating stories from the worlds of business and finance.